people who accidentally ruin someone's life without meaning to? What happened, and how do you feel about it now?
I caught my brother-in-law essaying his 9-year-old daughter. He killed himself afterwards to avoid going to jail. I have no regrets. He had been essaying her since she was 5 years old, his own daughter. She will be 18 this year. Her life is 100x better with him gone. I am grateful I caught him, because we wouldn't have known otherwise, because he threatened her and her brothers into silence. I was only 21 years old at the time of catching him. It was a very traumatic thing to witness, let alone her experiencing it. But she is safe, and that is all that matters to me. A coworker would always talk about how Jessica and I were going to go here, or Jesse and I went there, or Jess and I got up to this, that, or the other. One day, I ran into him and his wife in the wild. He introduced her only as my wife. I, of course, said, "Oh, Jessica, it's nice to meet you. I've heard so much about you." Gentle reader, his wife's name was not Jessica. I feel nothing about it. He shouldn't have been cheating on his wife, but if he was going to, he shouldn't have spent years telling me about Jessica, then introduce his wife only as my wife.
Serves the plunker right. Also, you didn't ruin his life. He did.
I work in human resources, and way back when I was new and naive, I had a home address change request for an employee come across my desk. I couldn't read the handwriting and wanted to be sure I put in the correct new address, so I called their house, and their wife answered. I asked her about it, and much to my surprise, she said, "What the hell are you talking about?" The employee came up to me a few days later and said, "I didn't tell her I was moving out yet."
Not me, but my husband. He's the reason my parents are divorced. When my husband and I were engaged, I drove to work, and when I got there, instead of my car turning off like normal, it sounded like it just died, let out its last breath, and was gone. I called my fiancé, and he drove over, had my car towed to a shop, and got it looked at. He did all of this while I was at work. I later told my mom about this, and she was floored. "You mean he just took care of it? He wasn't upset? He wasn't irritated to have to take care of it? If that happened to me, your dad would take care of it, but he would be pissed and find a way to blame me." My mom left my dad a week later. To be fair, this was their second divorce, but my mom saw everything so clearly that day.
My sister-in-law used to date this Nepalese dude. They dated for more than a year. I was talking to a friend about her and mentioned her boyfriend. She said her cousin also dated a Nepalese dude. I mentioned he was working in engineering, and she replied her cousin's boyfriend too. Then I asked his name, and they both had the same name. We got suspicious and checked photos, and indeed, it was the same man. Dude had been dating her cousin for 3 years, talking marriage and children. She was devastated when she learned he had been cheating on her for more than a year. I work in a public library, and because of how our book hold system works, I once accidentally informed some poor guy that he was likely getting a divorce. His wife had placed several DIY divorce books on hold, and they had a shared library account. When I called their landline phone number, the only one on the account, to tell them that their book holds were in, he answered the phone. And when I explained why I was calling, he asked what the book titles were. Without thinking, I rattled them all off. The Michigan divorce book, the divorce book, what every Michigan married man or woman needs to know, etc. I think there were 4 or 5 of them altogether, so it seemed pretty inevitable that he was headed for the single life. We don't typically share our patrons' private account information with anyone, including what books they have checked out or on hold. But if they are sharing an account with another person, we have no idea which person on that account has placed the hold. And sharing an account means that all the account info is shared freely amongst all the people on the account. I know it's not my fault that this guy got a divorce, but that's a heck of a way to find out, and I do feel bad about that. He was fucking around at work, never getting shit done, always calling out for bullshit reasons, etc. I ended up stuck doing all his work. So once when he called out for a splitting, puking migraine, then posted on Facebook about being at a concert, I narked. They fired him a few weeks later, and since his wife refused to work, they ended up losing their house.
Kinda sounds like his own damn fault, TBH.
I was once the tool which got someone's career stalled, but I do not feel entirely responsible. I was in therapy at an agency and knew 2 friends who were therapists working there. I also had a 3rd friend who had just committed suicide. At the funeral of our mutual friend, one of the people I knew from the mental health agency gossiped about private and confidential information they had snooped into the dead person's file to read. At my next therapy session, I was deeply grieving the suicide loss and outraged about the gossip from the dead person's file. So my therapist pressured me to reveal the name of who gossiped, and I refused. 2 days later, I got a phone call from my second friend who worked as an MSW therapist at the clinic and who had absolutely no idea about what was going down, as we had not even spoken in a year or so. And she asked me why she was being questioned and possibly disciplined due to this gossiping. So I was forced into a position of having to reveal who indeed had been unprofessional. And that was the end of her career. And it was handled so beautifully that to this day she has no idea it was me who reported her. The incident happened in 1990. I've often wanted to tell her, but feel it is best to leave as is. She really did it to herself. It wasn't an accident per se, but I didn't know what the outcome would be when I filed a sexual harassment complaint against a high-level manager who worked in corporate for a grocery chain, managing their remodels. He lost his job and his retirement benefits. He was very close to retiring. He was harassing every young female associate, and another manager actually encouraged us to file the complaint. He got what he deserved. This was enormously satisfying to read. I almost started a forest fire by accident once. I was burning a burn pile and I didn't take enough safety measures. The wind started gusting, which started the grass around it on fire. I kept putting it out and the wind would gust again, igniting it all, over and over. I rushed to the house, called the fire department on myself, and rushed back outside with hoses, connecting many together to reach the fire. I got the fire put out after about half an acre burned. The fire department came after it was out. It would have reached the trees before they got there. I almost caused a major fire. I felt terrible about it, of course. My hands were blistered from trying to put it out with a shovel over and over. The grass was green, but there was dead, dry grass under it. Combined with the wind, it was just a nightmare.
Was the local fire department happy with your quick thinking and ability to put it out, or miffed about you having started the fire?
I apologized profusely. They didn't seem particularly upset or happy about the situation. I didn't get a ticket or anything.